Okay, so space combat, because I was watching Kyle's Hills space combat and what it would be like. And I'm like, well, here, I'll do you one better real quick for like faster and light advanced civilization stuff. The big deal would be run. First, foremost, always run. If you can be spotted, that means you can be wormholed into a fucking star or some other planet. You can be warped into a point where like you'll just be murdered as a result of that. The whole point is like space combat is stupid. And I have a bunch of different like faster and light travel tech that's feasible that we can build right now. That's like a lot of that essentially. So the answer turns into, especially with like, hey, here's how to make my basic bitch like wormhole tech, which is entanglement and then like some tunneling effects from one to another of the entangled areas. And then the faster and light travel means you can just get them yeeted to somewhere really fast. And then it's just like, here's a bunch of explosives. In my case, it was like an ignition fusion engine that I started off with as a consistent, constant rocket engine. They got rid of because then it's like, well, now I have faster and light that uses almost no energy, and it's a bunch of faux warping and faux wormholing stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's using vacuum pressure, quantum vacuum pressure, and inertial acceleration, and then lensing as you get faster and faster of space and time to curve it so that way when you get into a vacuum area in front of you, it gets more pressure behind it and it makes it so that way you can actually travel. It's kind of like warping, but it's not warping. To basically make it so you can travel faster and faster than the speed of light kind of stuff. I already have it on my YouTube. Several of them actually. I especially put them in my own. I should put those in my own playlist. I should really redo those playlists and categorize them. There's just my creative ideas section. But I'm gonna move on. But what it means is it's like, well, yeah, no, but like if that means you can do that, especially since I can go through with that design to just go right through any black hole or sun or star or any of that. But it's like you can also disable someone's stuff as well. But then that also means I can kind of play around if I have a little bit of a fleet or enough of like other drones to warp space and time around you where you can see. It's warp quotation marks. It's real vacuum, and it's gonna have a fisheye lens behind you, right? Or in front, depending on how you do it, right? But what that means is that you then, on the other side, aren't able to be viewed, and anyone that's trying to look at you can't view you through the little fish eye lens. It's a unidirectional, kind of like a two-way mirror, you know, that kind of thing. But if you do it right with multiple people, then you can see just fine out, but they can't look at you, kind of like you're in a mirror ball, two-way mirror ball. And you wouldn't know if they were right next to you. Haha, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, ghosts. Except it's just advanced civilization tech. Which, you'd have to have sensors, which I do have, also on my YouTube, so I can experimentally prove if whether or not they are there without any doubt. But the whole reason why I did it was because it's like, well, if you're gonna do space combat, your best option is always run. If you got seen in any way, you should absolutely be afraid. That's either a decoy or something that's maybe possibly got something similar to you and you should run. Especially when it's like, well, it doesn't matter if you're super clusters away, because I could do that within like less than a day with that faster than light travel tech. And then put someone in a star, in the middle of a core of a star, and have them pop out, which is just ridiculously dangerous. So it's always just like run. Otherwise, the strategy is a bunch of countermeasures really fast to try and grab anything that they do. And if you fuck up with that kind of move, then it's like, then you're dead. If you do it wrong enough, you get into the membrane potential land area I've talked about in my universal law and more stuff, like my black hole playlist. And then it's like, all right, so if you go even further with that, it's like, well, it could just constantly keep sucking it in, or because it's like, it's a bunch of potentials. They're real particles, but there's a membrane separating them, and then there's fields that, of course, exist, and we see the quantum foam that not only is produced by us, but then the interactions of those given fields. So quantum foam is literally the very definition of, yes, potential land exists, and membranes are real, but they failed to ever seem to think that would be the case. I don't see it as why that would be, but I guess whatever. So it's like, look at all this absolutely already established evidence that says, yeah, I am right, douche fuck. Deal with it. So, moving on. I came up with it a long time ago, all the way back in when Trump was president. I've only just recently recorded it because I've been more confident and I've been away from my abusive family. I was able to more articulate it, start putting things on my... Well, I got rid of my hacked Blurgy Paston accounts. And now I'm Xenon Reality. We'll move on to... Now it's on there, but the basic synopsis is it's like, well, okay, well, it's like a strange matter. It rapidly, using the basic principles of any given thermodynamics and fluid dynamics and pressure dynamic systems, Bernoulli principle, but it's not a flat portal. It's a sphere that is very different to your average sphere, where you will both be able to see inside of it and also the outside at the same time, just like it will be able to see itself and outside as it blows potential out, which are real particles, instead of it acting like a Big Bang or a white hole. Happens to amplify any given amount of our fundamental forces. It would eventually accelerate us and attach or whatever, but it would also start accelerating time, slowing down time, go back to normal in time. Some things would be more radioactive, some things would not. Some things could be now suddenly stable, unlike before, we wouldn't know why. Sort of stuff like that. Like a real chaotic hodgepodge kind of stuff. But it wouldn't work with our dark matter and dark energy, just because dark matter and dark energy would be more of a field effect amplification, most likely from the quantum foam membrane, because it, of course, potentials create fields in their own right through the membrane that interact in quantum foam in the void, so to speak. Now, as a result of that, some of it can be pierced and it can go continuously back into potential. Now, supermassive black holes, I have a hypothesis and theory that says they just entangle and tunnel in, so you don't ever have to worry about it suddenly blasting anything out, which is good, because a black hole wouldn't be able to contain that. But here's what I was talking about, the Bernoullis and Ventrulis. As it sucks more of this in, the hole wants to close for potential land. As it blows it out, of course, it interacts more around localized, except it'd be doing it so fast because, it's basically more than the size of our universe of potential land. And it doesn't matter how small the hole is, it's a potential is a, doesn't, it's like a perfect superfluid or whatever. You can just take a really long time and be able to push a lot through really quickly. So basically about the size of the universe to roughly the size of the universe, and that really depends on the size and how long, but we'd be doing within about a second or two. And you'd be able to do that. That's one of the reasons why I'm terrified of like space combat. Because it's like, well, here's my advanced civilization faster than light stuff. And you want space combat? Run, motherfucker. What the fuck are you doing? What are you doing? Run! Just run! It's all about maneuverability. They can wormhole your ass fucking superclusters away. Just run. You never know, you know? So, but I move on to, this is the reason why I have a Great Attractor fear. What moves an entire supercluster around like that? And if you ever go backwards, for predictive and how it could have ultimately arrived at that point, and then move it forward, the best results, most likely, to the given amount of gravitational now that we have for our dark energy and dark matter. Thermodynamic kind of stuff for, the big ginormous magnetic filaments. For supercluster astrophysics, you start realizing it's like, something moved through our local fucking supercluster that gravitationally attracted our asses somehow. There's no way it could just be like a field thing. Because I would like to posit it to you really fast as to how that could maybe be a possibility. It'd be equivalent to us having really large gobs of energy, right? And then we used a bunch of fields bullshit, effectively, and then popped in an iron atom, fully complete. That's the amount of rare and ridiculous millions of superclusters you would need to have dark matter, dark energy be a great attractor. It just doesn't work. And it's like, no, it interacted with itself. That's what I'd be talking about. The dark energy, dark matter interacted with itself somehow with millions of superclusters and then formed a great attractor. Just doesn't make sense. It's not a possibility. I mean, not a very likely possibility. It's a very, very extraordinarily unlikely possibility. And I'm all up to date on the best current physics and observations on that. And it's like, well, how did you know about potential land and all this? And it's like, well, given the amount of calculations, my ass. Let's just take a look at the fucking observations you currently do for quantum physics. I'm like, do you see how you set up your sensors incorrectly for not knowing about this, when it comes down to the given informational noise, random, blah, blah, Heisenberg, blah, blah. And then its travel to and from, and then the sensing, blah, 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 probability, which there was already a paper that came out, but it's like, no, there are no hidden variables. I mean, you didn't even think that this would be a variable that could be from something else. Which basically turns you into, why didn't you see that? It's like, that's air you're breathing, right? What? Why didn't you see the air? It's not there. I can't see it. It's obviously not a thing. I'm like, nah. Still there. Still there. As far as I'm aware, quantum foam still exists, dish. Just letting you know. Freaking asshole sometimes. But that's physics for you. And physicists in general that have massive egos and generally speaking are very open-minded sometimes, depending on how much an ego and an identity is tied to a given type of view of the universe and perspective of reality, either chaotic or ordered and determined, and all the rest of it that goes along with it psychologically. Even the mathematics, too, and the interpretation of the observations and how many variables they really could have accounted for, and how actually intelligent they were at accounting for as much of them they could have, instead of it just being just the universe. They could have also been a little bit more than just the universe, but they refuse to acknowledge that one. I don't really know why. So it's like, behold! Why didn't you see that? Moving on to, alright, so, the Great Attractor, what the fuck could that actually be? And it's like, whatever the hell it is, it has a hell of a lot of gravity, right? It's gotta have a hell of a lot of gravity. Then I saw that James Webb's telescope here was all like, yo dog, I heard you like supermassive black holes before they should be there. And I don't think the fucking dude heard me right, because I said I didn't like that. Because I was like, so that's a bit of a fucking thing I have to deal with now. And then it turned into, well, the Great Attractor could curve all of our space and time, and it blue shifts us. It's clearly blue shifting us and helping increase our given acceleration, which tries to help us seem like in our local area of gravity, which is only by our star and by this supermassive black hole in this galaxy, which is in no way indicative of the whole thing, means it looks very similar, especially for our relative picture here of relative space-time dilation, relativity stuff, special relativity. It turns into, well, we think this is normal time. We have no idea if it is. Then it turns into, well, if they're already like that, did it possibly curve with a fucking goddamn attractor like that and blue shift it and to effectively looking like we were looking deeper into the past, but eventually at a certain point, it just started curving something else like a ginormous lens, sort of like a neutron star from back there on the other side of the planet, and then we see it over here. You know what I mean? Like, did that start happening? Did we all just, have these theories about gravity change because we started seeing the very definition of gravity waves and more in local areas for dark energy, dark matter that we just didn't account for the proper way? In a 3/4 dimensional manner. Because, of course, it takes time to get there. It doesn't travel as fast as light, and light can still travel faster, but then at the same time, nobody really, I think, appreciates that there's a ginormous soup of photons everywhere, of all wavelengths, and they're always interacting and interfering with each other. And then they're curving, and then falling, and then fast forwarding, and a blue shift, and a red shift, and all the rest of the things that can be going on there. Right? And then there's the lens mirror coherenter effect. And then a diffracting, refracting. You get the picture on some of it. That can ultimately make it seem as though we were looking further back, but we were not. Now, what the fuck is the Great Attractor? What the hell is a Great Attractor, right? You know what I mean? What turns into a Great Attractor? You see what I mean? I want out of this supercluster so bad. There's a reason why I made a bunch of faster and light travel stuff. Because I'm pretty sure that regardless of what it is, if it's a supercluster size attracting force, we should leave. We should leave far away from it. Not to mention, when we get out of its given influence, we might actually see the universe in a different way and be traveling and having a proper kind of real time, being more realistic. You know, we don't know if we actually have good, realistic, actual kinds of time without massive special relativity problems. Because of whatever the fuck that is that we're next to. Now, you think it's not that big of a deal until you realize it's moving a supercluster towards it. And it's pretty far away, or a lot of us are pretty far away. So whatever the fuck moves a supercluster towards it, it's dangerous, and I don't want to be around it. Now, as for me, it's like, well, it's theoretically it's possible that we're getting into the membrane part. But it's very unlikely. If it's something that gravitationally significant, it's much more of a time problem. A special relativity level of dilation issue. Or, sorry, non-dilation, constriction. You know, that problem. Like, it's so curved, whatever mass it has, whatever bending of the given, space-time substance that we're all a part of, it's going back towards that. Now, it doesn't mean that over there, outside of its influence, that we're effectively not going to have that issue. We're just in the atmosphere of the Great Attractor. We're in the neutron star, you know what I mean? Like, we're floating around, man, right? Except we're heading towards the fucking Great Attractor. And, well, it seems like it might not be, so big of a deal because it's like, well, it could be billions. You have no fucking clue. You honestly have no idea what that might be. Like, for real, you actually don't know. I mean this. It could explode, it could suddenly get way more attracting in its force, it could fucking alter, like, our versions of constant values, which is like, what constant values? You have no idea what the hell they are realistically. You've been around a Great Attractor. This is a local area. You don't even know if whether or not the amount of neutron pressure has altered your quantum standard model mechanics, your sensor data that you didn't set up with these given expected neutron and other outside chaotic factors that should be accounted for your given filtration and influence and observation of your variable data. The given amount of quantum foam that can definitely affect your fucking little sensor datas. Which all turns into, so you've never ever once at all observed any of your variables properly, and you all said that you did, but you didn't. This is a problem, bro. Just let you know. That's why I'm like, so everything I've heard about all of you over there is a lie. You said you were smart and fucking good at what you do, and sometimes you are, but no, you didn't put any effort in. You suck. You should have immediately thrown out the vast majority of your results the moment you realized that was going on. And also, here's another fucking big clue. This is for sure a thing with light that we're seeing going on here. Either we literally super miscalculated everything with all of the light we've ever seen. See what I'm saying? Or we should be concerned about this and we should leave. Just giving it a nice little, college try. I'm not even in college. I'm 30 fucking one. I'm about to be 32. I'm gonna move on. It doesn't really matter that much because, like, it might honestly be so significant that we really can only, as a species, survive. The Fermi's paradox filter here if we can leave our local supercluster away from this fucking thing. From my theories and hypotheses in terms of what I've observed and what should actually be the changes to those given sensing and detecting observations for quantum physics and mechanics, which I can do, unlike others, unfortunately. It's really bad and we should leave. That's literally what that is. Yeah, I'm not even kidding. It's like, whatever it is, it's got me wigged. And I don't like it. So, I just don't want to go near it. I don't want to be in our local supercluster, bro. That's just the truth. Now, it doesn't seem like it'd be that significant, but then at the same time, you really don't fucking know. You know what I mean? Right. Like, I remember getting to a point where it was like, no, I know what that fucking thing is and we should leave. In the past. But regardless, it just doesn't matter. It wouldn't matter at all what it could be. If anything, that's me trying to make a story for you. So that way, and then all of a sudden I apply some kind of label or something. So that way it seems less scary, you don't feel as though it's that big of a deal and we can handle it. Instead of like, maybe we could just, instead of worrying about it, use the fucking technology and faster and light out of our local supercluster, because I've got it on my YouTube, and then, just not care. How about that? How about we just do that? Why is it that you need me to fucking prove or some other bullshit? Why don't we just go? What is that? Why don't we just go? That kind of thing. If I move on from that, it's like the Great Attractor fear is also the fact that it's like, well, it shouldn't be getting into the membrane because the membrane would have an opposite pressure effect. It wouldn't be amplifying gravity quite the way that we think it would be. Which turns it into another problem. Instead of a quantum dark energy, dark matter problem, it turns it into a far more deadly, serious problem, which means something started making what is the equivalent of a time and entropedic style of reduction. We're burning energy to have some degree of time and entropy take place. Not to even get into the fact that it's not just time and entropy kind of stuff. It'd be going after, let's see here, a combo of sorts of gravity and that dark matter, dark energy getting pushed into some weak and strong nuclear forces, because it already had very much been a part of electromagnetic for quite a while. Which essentially means that there's like only one real way out, which is using quantum vacuum pressure and my inertial acceleration engines to get superclusters away really fast. But only if you go with my technology and say it was Xenon Reality and John Tyler Lemke that helped you made it, and also we all went together with me involved on the ship and all the rest. So there's that. Otherwise, I hope it kills all of you. Yeah, I do. I honestly, I mean, you didn't even heed the warning of the Great Attractor. You didn't even go with me and all the rest of it. I hope you all die. And I hope it's like some super cool, like energy being of some kind. It's got like conscious awareness somehow. I mean, if it had that amount, like, why wouldn't it be able to? Anyways, moving on. It's like also destroy all the things and just make it so I live and I get to be happy all the time. And all of you die that fucking cheated me, stole all my stuff, didn't go with what I said, didn't heed my warning, and all the rest. I hope all of you die. All right, bye. Like and subscribe. Share. Hit that bell. See you later.